Yo, what is up, guys? Today, I'm going to be talking about the questionable matchmaking of the UFC. Just talking about how it's an absolute joke. Dana doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Let's get right into it. Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje. This is just an embarrassment. I made a video earlier in the week about this, and I just want to go deeper into it because, this is ridiculous. These guys are not even in the top 5 of their own division, and they're getting an interim title fight. Just think about this. This is like the most terrible thing that could happen. Paddy getting a title shot after not doing anything in the sport, pretty much. He beat Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler. The best thing Michael Chandler's done in the UFC is do a freaking backflip after he head kicked Tony Ferguson. And that's one of his opponents, 0-8 Tony Ferguson. Come on. Like, this shit is terrible. I would rather have Volk move up and fight one of these guys. Whatever it is, it's better than this, to be honest. I think Gamrot could beat freaking Justin Gaethje because of the grappling. You know what I'm saying? So it's honestly just so embarrassing. Imagine if we got Arman versus Holloway. This would be so much better. It would just be so much more high level. Even, I know Oliveira just lost for the belt, but even Oliveira and, Holloway that they made would be better for an interim title fight. I just think this is so undeserving, just being that Gaethje literally had to threaten for the fight. He had to threaten retirement for the fight. And I know he said it was because Ali, told him to do it to push for the title fight. But that's just embarrassing. It's just really embarrassing for the sport. It's kind of becoming a boxing thing where, they don't put the best guys up against each other. And, I'm not too heavy on both of these guys. I think, obviously these guys are great. Like, I'm not saying Paddy's not top 10. I'm not saying that, Gaethje's not a top 5 guy that could beat some of these guys, but they're not the best. They're not the top 3. They're not the top 4. Might be top 5. But, Gaethje, I think he's really overrated, throwing his combinations from his hips, leaving his chin in the air. Everything about this is just embarrassing. Gaethje just a white belt. And I just don't want to see it. I'd rather see Volk move up and freaking fight whoever in this division. Arman should have gotten it. Even if it was Gaethje versus Arman, it would have been better than this fight. Like, I don't see where this was like, I get on a marketing standpoint, it might be, more entertaining than some matchups, but I feel like if you put Holloway in there against Arman, that's going to be a great fight. Like, it's not like Arman's just going to wrestle his way to, it'll be on the feet for a little bit. It might go to the ground at some point and Arman could find the finish. But whatever it is, you got to keep the integrity of it. This is just terrible. And, whoever's going to win this is not going to go on to win their next fight. I will tell you that, because they're either going to fight Topuria or I think Arman. They should fight Arman. But hey, man, it's sad. I hope that Gaethje wins just because I would prefer Gaethje over Pimblett to be a champion. I do not want to see Paddy as champ. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I just feel like Paddy winning would just be terrible in this good of a division too. Like, you have guys, like, I feel like Arman could really be up there. Just, Dana Pink just hates Arman. I don't know what kind of shit is going on. I know it's because of the headbutt. I know it's because of the missed weight early in the year, but you got to give some grace to these fighters. Like, they give the same grace to Charles Oliveira when Charles literally missed championship weight, only champion to ever be stripped. Like, and I'm not even holding that against Charles. Like, I think maybe there was something going on with the scales, or it's half a pound. It happens. And also there was a little bit of an injury involved. I don't know how much of that was just fake and how much, but you still got to give him the benefit of the doubt. After winning a fight, give him the title fight. He's willing to fight. Just do it. Like, you can't be that stubborn with this. Giving Paddy 1-13 his opponents in his last fights. Like, Chandler's very low level in this sport, and I just think, anything would have been better. But enough with this one. It just gets me upset because, I really do. I'm heavy on Topuria. I'm heavy on Sarukian, and I'm heavy on Holloway. I know Oliveira is kind of the fourth guy out there, and, he would definitely lose to all 3 of those guys. And I think he's going to lose to Max Holloway, coming soon. But it doesn't matter. We just got to see some different things. But hey, man, we'll talk about that On to the next one. Volk and Lopes 2. This one's stupid because, you have other guys that will give Volk a good fight, both undefeated, and you just want to see something new with Volk. It's stupid to go out there and, the one guy could actually beat Volk, I think, just because of the finishing capabilities of Lopes. It's not smart by them because their motto would be to, use Volk's name to get more, people drawn into it. I feel like they're not even leaning towards that because, even though Lopes is popular, you're still going to have more fights if you give Evloev the title shot and Volk wins, and then you give Murphy the title shot and Volk wins. So I feel like if they took that route, it would have even been better for their marketing brand. And I think those guys are more deserving, even though, they're not too active, they're not too entertaining. It's still just the integrity of the sport. You gotta put these guys ahead of it. Like, we do not want to see Volk get starched, bro. That's the only thing we don't want to see. I'm okay with him I'll be more okay with him losing to Masvidal and Masvidal being champ. Like, that would literally be a better outcome than him losing to Diego, which I don't think is going to happen. But, like, I just don't see what they see in Lopes as much as they're giving him. You know what I mean? Like, they give him the headliner on UFC Noche, which is fine. And then they give him these 2 title shots. Like, first one was deserving, don't get me wrong, but this one is just crazy. I think Volk will win this as long as he doesn't get caught again. I think the one shot that he got caught by wasn't too bad. He was leaning back, so it looked a little worse than it was. I don't think it, took him away from his consciousness or anything, but I just want to see Volk versus different people, and I don't want to see him get starched. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just want to see him cruise by in this one, get the decision. I hope he could get a finish. It's just tough because Lopes is literally just a zombie. He'll walk through anything. But, it will definitely be interesting to see if Lopes could get the finish. I don't get this from the UFC. I don't understand why 10 months after, a guy just gets 49, 46, even though, he had moments, don't get me wrong, but Lopes is just not there skill-wise with Volk. I don't think it takes a genius to see that. You know what I mean? Like, he just doesn't have the bag to compete with Volk. And, this will literally hurt Lopes more than it will if he loses this because, you lose to Volk 2 times on his way out of the UFC, and, it's going to be harder for him to get back up there and get the respect of people, even though it's not a bad thing to lose to Volk, but you know what I mean? Like, 2 times is just crazy. Put him up against another guy and then Volk fights again. Maybe Volk retires or Volk loses and you put him up against a fresh matchup. It would just be better for him in general. So I think this is lose-lose for everybody kind of, because risky for Volk in the same way. I think he'll still win. Lopes, if he loses, it's going to be more difficult for him to get back to a title shot, probably 2 more wins. And, whatever it is, it's stupid. So I'm going to go on to the third fight that I'm going to be covering. This might happen. Islam and Usman would just be so weird. It is kind of cool to see that Islam is versing Usman, just being that, the aura that Usman had at his title reign. But, I don't really want to see it just because this division is so stacked. Like, you have so many guys. Even Shavkat deserves it more, even though he hasn't fought since, like, who knows, I think it was 2024. But, doesn't matter, man. Like, even if it's Ian Gary, Michael Morales, Carlos Pratt, anybody deserves it more. I know it's because Ali just wants to make the bread. But, I think that, it's not going to be as competitive as they think. I think, Islam could he could just pure striking win. Like, I think Islam's kickboxing is too good for him. I just don't see what they're seeing from this. Being that Usman was on a 3-fight losing streak, and I think he's number 8 in the rankings, and there's so many guys that, are above him. Even coming off a loss, I think Sean Brady's more deserving of this. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, why are we trying to entertain a matchup like this? When Islam is at his peak and has only maybe like a few more fights, like 3 or 4 fights potentially, I could even see him having 2 more fights and retiring. We want to build him up and have challenging fights so that when the time comes, maybe he moves back down and fights Ilya, or maybe Ilya can come up and fight him, or whoever it is. I feel like seeing him and Ian Gary would be interesting, just because I think Ian Gary's, anti-wrestling could be, very good in the fight and make it competitive. Give him a challenge on the feet. The striking of Ian Gary would definitely be something to see. And then even Michael Morales, the power that he has, the size that he has, it would just be something new. Carlos Prates, technical, great power. That would just be scary for Islam. I feel like, and the antics. You got to think about it antics-wise. Michael Morales, I don't know if you guys have seen the zestiness of Michael Morales, but he is going all out with that. I don't know the freaky shit he was saying that he wanted Islam to wrestle him or whatever. But, bro, if we get that shit would be a funny-ass lead-up to the fight, bro. I know that shit would be funny. And then Carlos Prates, everyone knows, bro, he got the aura, bro. We got to see him, fighting. Even though he lost to Ian Gary, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? That power is just, like, incredible. So, hey, man, Usman, bro, no knees, no nothing. Why make this? I just don't understand. I get it's like, it draws people in just because, the casuals know Usman and all that. But, I feel like even a guy like Michael Morales, Carlos Prates, they have that aura built up to where, you could still get a lot of people watching and tuning in. And now that the pay-per-views are gone, it's not like you have to meet a quota with like, selling a pay-per-view. I feel like Islam has the star power of Russia, and, giving the younger guys that title shot and making them, blending them in with that will make it better for the future of the sport. Because Michael Morales is only like 25, 26 or whatever, maybe even younger. And if you build him up now, 2 years, 3 years in the 2-3 years, Dagestan brother, but 2-3 years in the future, it'll be better for the sport. Same thing with Carlos Prates. Even though I think Carlos Prates is a little bit older, you got to build up some of these guys and give them an opportunity. Usman is no chump, but like, he's cooked, brother. He's cooked. Islam is winning this shit easily, and that's all I gotta say, really. Like, why are we acting like Islam is not gonna just wrestle the shit out of him? He's just gonna do everything to him. He's just gonna make it look easy. Like, Usman's point fighting boxing is not gonna do nothing in the striking, and he's just not that level above. I think Islam's quicker. His leg kicks are better. Everything, and the wrestling. Usman's not a bad wrestler, but come on, like, he's not out wrestling Islam. He might be able to defend the takedowns well, but I think up against the cage, the judo, too much for him. It just doesn't make sense in general, guys. But there's a few others that I could, go and bring up and say, why do they do that? Like, for example, Sean O'Malley and Umar, why not just put them up against each other? Next one gets a title fight. I feel like, I think that they think that it would, Umar would beat Sean and it would damage Sean's brand too much, and they kind of want to build him back up to get a title shot. But put him against Figueiredo, and he's at minus 1,600 favorite, which is just insane, which is, I don't know if he should be that much of a favorite, but he's going to win regardless. And then Sean, putting him against Song Yadong is not a bad matchup. Like, I feel like that's going to be a banger as well. But why not just put them up against each other and then, give Piotr Jan some time, give Merab some time, and then, make them fight. You could even do Jan and the winner of Sean and Umar, and then after that fight, whoever wins versus Merab, when Merab gets an immediate rematch, which he deserves. So, there's a lot of shit that they could do, but they're just not willing to do it. And I feel like, Dana gets so lazy of everything, even in the Instagram lives, whatever it is. I'm, excited for Paramount, but I really hope they take that next step to get the sport to a certain level of promotion, because I feel like there's so much potential with some of these guys, but they don't allow them to have that spotlight. But hey, man, that was my rant. F Dana White, bro. Fuck Dana White. Why are we doing this, bro? I'm gonna have a talk with him. They're gonna have me in the meeting room with them, and I'm gonna talk to him and Hunter. We'll get some of these fights better, guys. I'm sorry. But that was the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good one. Have a good day. Tune in for the next videos. Peace.